Today on CodeDependent, I'm going to continue a conversation we were having about using Flash authoring to create and then use libraries. So last time we created one, today we're going to use it. See how that works? Sort of two sides of that equation. Again, I talked to my friend Trevor on the Flash player team who helped me understand how to use Flash authoring to first generate the file that I wanted to be reused, and then in another project actually use that library to get the reusable content that I needed for building an application. So we showed in a previous episode how you could use Flex and the new animation class in Flex 4 to create sort of a low-level animation that you could provide values to, and it would calculate the values over time, and then it would pass it to your helper class that would then set the values on properties and target objects. And this is sort of a lower level way of doing exactly what effects do. Effects make it easier. You should use effects in general, but if you want to use the lower level timing engine, be my guest. So today we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to do it in Flash authoring and see what it looks like over there. So here we are in Flash CS4. We're going to create an ActionScript library, and we're going to point to the reusable library that we created before. So we have this directory I can show in Windows Explorer where we have the library that we created, this flexi.swic library, and that's the reusable library that we're going to use in our new project. So we go over here and say, okay, well, I'm going to go to the publish settings. Now, this was the key for me understanding this thing, was going into the publish settings, because it's not actually on publish that we're going to use this thing. It's actually sort of on creation time. But this is where they happen to have the settings, so you need to know to find it there. Go into publish settings, click on the Flash tab. We go into the settings for the scripts and the library path, and then in here we say, okay, I'm going to browse to a SWIC file that I want you to use. In addition to everything else that you know about creating a Flash project, I also wanted you to use this library file to be able to get information about the animation class and the other helper classes that we're going to use in our application. So we'll browse to this flexi.swic file that we created before, and we'll click OK, and we'll click OK here, and then we'll actually write some code. And rather than bore you with writing the code, I'll go ahead and do a Julia Child and simply paste the code in there. And let's walk through it and see what's going on. So we are importing a property animator class, which is a class that we wrote specifically for this reusable library that takes the current values that have been calculated by the animation and then sets them on a target object that we specified. We're going to import a bunch of stuff in the animation package, and we're also going to import the special easer that we have. We're going to go ahead and create graphics on the fly. Now, using Flash authoring, of course, people might typically draw these out, but I thought for the purposes of this demo, I would just make it obvious what was going on without going into the design aspect and just say, okay, let's create a rectangle. It's going to be a sprite object. We'll begin a fill. We'll draw a rectangle. We'll end a fill. And then we'll add that to the display list so the rectangle actually appears on the screen. We'll create an animation object. So this is exactly the way that we might do it in Flex. We'll create that thing, and we're going to create it with a duration of 1200 milliseconds. And we're going to declare some motion paths. So we're going to say, okay, give us a new vector of motion paths and add to it. In the first motion path, we're going to animate the property of x from a value of 0 to a value of 200. Similarly, we're going to create a motion path for y from a value of 0 to a value of 200. And we're going to set an animation target on the animation. This is the object that's going to be called at every update so that it can, after the animation class actually calculates the new values, it'll call our animation target and say, this is the vector containing all of the new values, do whatever you want to with them. And then the property animator will go ahead and set them on the rect object. And we're also going to declare an easer on this. And we're going to use an elastic ease so it sort of wobbles at the end. We're going to add an event listener to our rectangle object so that when someone clicks on the object, we actually will call this function down here, and when the click handler is called, we're going to play the animation. So if we run this thing, I could do Control Enter, that'll run it. And we click on the rectangle, and it animates. Now, if we go over into Flex and Flash Builder, we saw this project in a previous episode where we created an animation on the fly. We pointed the animation target to a property animator class, which looks eerily similar to the one we're talking about in the Flash project. We created an elastic easer. We set an elastic easer on it, set a duration of 1200. We created two simple motion paths. Does some of this look familiar maybe? And then when you clicked on the rectangle object, we would play our animation. And when we run this within Flash Builder, we get something that looks oddly similar. Okay, so this is about using Flash Builder to actually create a reusable library that has no Flex dependencies, and then use that library in other Flash projects, so that now we can use some of the capabilities of Flex that have no dependencies on other classes within the Flex framework, and actually use that within Flash authoring to get some similar capabilities and functionality and similar API for our applications there. Not sure if you're interested in the Flexi library itself. It's sort of an intellectual exercise in how to do this thing in general. But also it's a library that I'm going to post on my blog in case you are doing some animation coding in Flex and you want to use a similar API for some Flexless, some Flash authoring or Flash projects that you might be working on. If you want to check out a couple of blogs related to this project, first of all, I'll give a shout out to Sinocular.com, which is by Trevor McCauley, that helped me understand this whole sort of Flash library thing. So Sinocular.com for his stuff, lots of great information about Flash Player, Flash Runtime stuff. Or my blog, where you can see the Flexi library and the applications we saw today, as well as other related applications, at graphics-geek.blogspot.com.